Awesome. Hey, if you're online, thank you so much for joining. Pastor Spencer's on vacation. We're a little bit jealous. This is currently like 45 degrees and raining. There's notes right up here up front. I believe he emailed them out this week. If you can go ahead and share this on YouTube, tag a friend, like, subscribe. I know it'll help him a lot in the future with some amazing things he has coming up. Also, he just released this on his Facebook only. But if you're watching, maybe you're watching a rebroadcast, he just started doing an emotional quotient test for your staff, which will bring you to the next level. What we find is most of the time struggles, strife, why people don't move forward isn't because of a lack of intelligence, but it's really a lack of emotional ability to take the next step, and that's what's holding us back. So I'd encourage you to go ahead and contact him through Empowering Pastors about that test, how you can implement it in your church with your staff. It'll be a great, great benefit for everybody involved. But today we're going to go back into extreme ownership, which I started like 2 months ago last when I was able to share. And unfortunately, you cannot go back because we forgot to hit the start button. But today we have started. So you're going to jump right in on section 2. I would encourage you to buy the book. It's called Extreme Ownership by Leif Babin and Jocko Willenick. Honestly, it's absolutely phenomenal. There are two guys who served in the military, in the Navy SEALs, and actually did a lot of training for the Navy SEAls during our time in Iraq initially, and then also training them as they went once their tour was over. And they've actually brought this training not just to the military, but to the business sector as well. And I believe it can be a great benefit to the church world. So the first section was really ourselves. Now this is as a team. What do we do to take extreme ownership so we can take it to the next level and we can actually see a powerful benefit long term? So he starts off by saying part of extreme ownership is understanding your team's actions are a reflection of your leadership. Leaders are required to ensure that their team is well informed, well practiced, and able to perform as expected. And any issues from the team members reflect on the leader, not the team member themselves. And how many times have we had volunteers, have we had people that were leading, and something didn't go right, and the first immediate easy reaction is, oh, well, they failed. Oh, well, they slept in. Oh, well, they didn't do this. It's so easy to blame volunteers. It's so easy to point the finger elsewhere. But in reality, as leaders, the final buck stops with us every single time. And the principles we're going to talk about today are really cultural principles. And these are things that we need to bring into practice, and we need to implement them, not just an idea, but we have to implement them in culture. And culture is our core beliefs that shape what we do, determining who we actually are. And what I found is there's a lot of people with great vision. Have you ever seen anybody with great vision? Come on, we're sitting in a church with great vision. I'm sure if you're a business leader, you have great vision. I'm sure if you're a pastor or you're a Bible college student, you have great vision right now in life. But the reality I'm finding more and more is vision is actually a slave of culture. If we were to talk about vision like a tree, we know that a tree is going to grow, hopefully, prayerfully, and it's going to have giant fruit, and it's going to be amazing. But in reality, trees only grow when they have the right root system, when they're planted in the right place. And as the tree is to vision, culture is the roots. And unless we have the right attitudes, the right work ethic, the right character, the right principles in our culture, the vision will never reach what's been stated. I know people that have the greatest ideas, but they don't have a culture that can drive it to the right place. And that's really what we need today is we're going to try to set some cultural pieces so we can implement and see the vision to the fullness. Culture is honestly one of the most important things that you'll ever have. And wherever you work, whatever you do in your home, in your own life, we have cultures that we work with, we move with, and that are us. But the very first one today I want to talk about is cover and move. And we probably heard this, and these are all military terms. And cover and move is a military tactic where one team covers while another team moves so they can jointly gain ground. It's not so one can go all the way ahead. It's so that they can move together and jointly gain ground. It's all about having different teams work together and support one another. And during an operation, and if I would personally listen to the book, I got the Audible version of this book, and it was so good. Because it's these guys telling the stories firsthand, what they saw and what they went through. So they're reading it with emotion. But it's wild because during an operation, Leaf Babin was leading a team, and they were stuck in a really bad spot. And they ended up getting out, but after evaluating the options, he just decided to split his team up, utilize cover and move to return to base, and he later realized he'd been so focused on his own team's dilemma that he forgot there was another team in the area. But by implementing cover and move with the other team, he could have reduced their risk and brought both teams back safely. So how crazy is it that these guys are in a firefight and he splits his team up, which was what he should have done, but he had another team right there. And we need to realize that there's other people, there's other things, and that unity is one of the most important things we can have to move forward. If as an organization, like Jesus said it like this, any kingdom divided against itself will fall. And any organization, anything, if there's division amongst it, it will fall, and it doesn't even need to be attacked from the outside. Psalm 133, and man, I'm more of a preacher, but this is leadership, and I love this. Verses 1 through 3, it says it like this. I didn't put that in your notes. I kept a couple things out of your notes. Psalm 133, verses 1 through 3 says it like this. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for the brethren to dwell together in unity. And we know that it's good and it's pleasant for us to dwell in unity, but also continue to in verse 2 and 3, it says, it is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down the beard, or even Aaron's beard that went down the skirts of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. What's so cool is unity is likened to the anointing. It's likened to power. It's likened to moving forward, to bringing life in the eyes of God. We know, according to the Bible, unity can even be used for things that aren't going to bring great success for life. If you look at Genesis 11, they were building the Tower of Babel. They were going to access heaven out of God's order. So he had to mess it up. There's such power and unity in cover and move. And departments and teams within the same organizations often will work in silos. And we've talked about this in our staff meeting, how it's easy because we need to have success in our departments, but our success doesn't really matter if the rest of us are sinking because of it. That departments within the same organization often work in silos, and they get so caught up in their own problems that they end up competing and blaming one another when things go wrong instead of working jointly for a common mission. Isn't that crazy? That in instances like that, we're actually eating ourselves. We're actually destroying ourselves from the inside out, and we don't need an enemy to destroy us because we are doing it. While you might be seemingly having great success, you're destroying the infrastructure around you. And when you need the support, or when they need the support, either you're too busy or they don't have enough support to actually move it forward. All elements within the greater team are crucial and must work together to accomplish the mission, mutually supporting one another for that singular purpose. And we know at his tabernacle, we love God, we save souls, and we develop leaders. Our mission, our goal right now is 900 people on a Sunday morning at the Horseheads campus. And we were only like 100 people away from that this week. But that's our heart, that's our pastor's heart. That's his mission right now for us. And collectively, not as silos, but as departments, we're all pitching in for that. We're all adding in for that. We're all going after that. And that's the goal. But if we were to just try to do it on our own, we're not going to get very far. If I try to have a youth service without sound and media, we can still have a service, but it's not going to be as pretty. If we try to have a youth service and I'm leading worship, dear God, run fast and don't look back. But oftentimes, like what we do is we get so caught up in what we are doing. Like Leaf Babin was saying, he forgot there was another team right there. He forgot that he could have used cover and move. We get so caught up in our silos, so caught up in our departments that we lose the big picture for what's going to benefit all of us. And leaders should regularly step back and consider how they can work with other teams for mutual gain and serve the wider mission. One principle that it's also called is getting off the dance floor and stepping on the balcony. And if we fail to ever get off the dance floor and step up on the balcony, we'll never get the full picture of what's happening. And it's easy to stay on the dance floor of sales and forget what's happening in production. It's easy to get on the dance floor and forget what's happening in kids ministry if you never see it. So it's important that as leaders that we continuously get off the dance floor and we step up on the balcony so we can get a full, clear picture of what's happening in every area, in every instance. If we fail to get off the dance floor, we'll forget that there's others who can actually help us. It'd be like swimming in the middle of the ocean and there's a boat right there and you're screaming, crying for help, but your back is towards the boat because you refuse to look around for a minute. You know how crazy that would be? They're like throwing life preservers at you and they're landing right behind you and you're screaming for help and they're right there like trying to cover and move, trying to help you, and you never took a moment just to observe what's going on and find the help that's there. When we fail to get off the dance floor, we often lose sight of the clear, true objective because we start focusing on the problems that are right in front of us and not the direction that we're supposed to go. Okay. When we fail to get off the dance floor, we'll be obsessed with our immediate problems, and we can't see that. See, one of the giant snares of being in departments is limited visibility. And unless we're willing to step up and have good visibility for everything, then we will create silos. And if we move forward, we all win. Look, if worship moves forward, we're all going to win. If kids move forward, we're all going to win. If Mansboro moves forward, we all win. If sales, if you're a business person, if sales moves forward, you're all going to win. We want to see a win for the all. But the crazy part is when we only focus on our goals and we leave others fighting a battle by themselves, then we're just really destroying. Like, who cares if production wins and has 1 million components, but sales lost and they can't sell all of them? We've actually lost. We got to make sure that it's not just singularly focused, but we can have everybody play their part, everybody see a win, everybody step up, get good visibility, and move forward together. And when we fail to take extreme ownership of cover and move, then we actually fail to see clearly. And I have some reflect and respond questions in there, and we're going to break up a little bit earlier than Pastor does. And you're going to be able to work through those reflect and respond questions on the bottom of this. But the second thing that we need to do in extreme ownership as teams is we need to keep things simple. The example that he gave is when Jocko Willenick needed to set up patrols in Ramadi, he was mindful of the complex environments where many things could go wrong. He decided to keep things simple by getting the first patrol to cover only a short distance in a controlled space. This allowed the patrol to handle the dangers, learn from the experience before gradually expanding its patrol parameters. So they're given the ability to test, to work on things, to try out cover and move without stepping into the fullness of a firefight and having things go absolutely horrible. And what I've seen and what I've learned, I took over youth group when I was 19. So what I've learned is that when communicating plans to people, you can't just shoot your idea, stare them in the face, and it's going to be good. That's not how these things work. That is terrifying. You get a couple stares back, and most of the time people don't want to say anything because they don't want to feel like they don't want you to think they're sued. They don't want you to think that they don't understand it. And often they're scared of what might come back at them for asking a clarifying question. But we need to keep things simple for people so they can actually do it. Complexity isn't always the best. Like, how complex have some people made the gospel and made it seem like serving Jesus is impossible to those? Yeah. Like, we can't make things so complex that there isn't clarity to actually move forward. Right. When we keep our plans simple, they can be easily communicated and understood. When plans are too complex with too many variables and unknown, people can't understand them. I mean, we understand it because we came up with it. It's easy because we wrote it down. But most of the time when we come up with this crazy complex, we have 58 moving pieces and you can do this at this exact moment, but not at this moment. And this works. That's not going to work for most people, especially starting out. Like if you're running sound, that's going to be something that will long-term be very complex. But if you start off with the most complex description of something, somebody's going to be 1,000 meters like under the water with no way out. And they're going to quit. It's going to be frustrating. We can't do that to people if we want to see good success.
Yeah.
We keep our plans simple so they can be communicated in a clear, simple way. Like, if you can't actually communicate it clearly and simply, do you even understand it? Like, how many preachers have we seen stand up and preach for 2 hours, and they only preach for 2 hours because they really didn't understand what they were trying to say either? Clear, simple communication. The quote in here says it like this: combat, like anything in life, has inherent layers of complexities. And when we simplify as much as possible, we can actually see success. We communicate in a clear, simple way so everyone understands what the mission is and what roles they play. You ever been in a meeting, someone gives this amazing speech, and you're sitting there like, yeah, but what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
Cool, I see it, but what's next? Okay, but what am I supposed to do? And that's like, cool, you have a great idea, but now there's no action to it. If your team doesn't get it, we have not kept things simple and we've failed. If people don't get it, it's our job as the leader to make it easy to understand. And we need to keep it simple so people can make adjustments in their plan in response to real-time changes. Look, if the plan is simple enough, everyone understands it, means people can rapidly, quickly adjust and modify what they're doing so they can actually work with the plan. Practically, what I learned is, so Mackenzie, who's our worship pastor now on staff, she first started working for conference like part-time, 10 hours a week, just to get some administrative things going on. And what I quickly learned with Mackenzie is that I can't just say an idea because she'd stare at me like I had 14 eyes. And it wasn't Mackenzie's fault, it was my fault. Because Mackenzie isn't a communication talk kind of learner, she's a visual learner. If I have an idea, it needs to be drawn. There should be pictures. There should be a flow chart. There should be paragraphs written, grammatically correct, and then a personal conversation. Does that mean that she's not smart? No. That means I've covered every single base. So you can see it, hear it, and talk through it so there's clear communication. Now with the things I try to give at least those 3 layers where, look, there's a funnel, there's a flow, here's names written with arrows. Here's everything that you need to see that you would possibly need to know. Also, here's a written description of it. And let's have a conversation so we're on the same page. Now, like V&A for her internship, she doesn't need to work like that. Most of the time it's, hey, try this. And she disappears and comes back a couple hours later like a hermit and it's all done. But it's just how she works. And if we fail to learn how to communicate, look, it's our job as a leader to make sure people are well equipped for what we've assigned them to do. And if it's not simple to them, it's not doable. And if it's not doable, we failed as leaders. It's our job to learn how to best communicate with those that we're supposed to be leading. If not, we don't set them up for success. And we need to provide channels for people to seek clarification. Most people won't ask for clarification because they're scared, because they think that if you ask a question, you look weak or you look foolish. So we need to make sure as leaders, we set a culture of keeping it simple and allowing clarifying questions so that people are most equipped to actually have success. Like, honestly, it's our job to make sure they know exactly what it is. Just because it doesn't get done doesn't mean that they're lazy, doesn't mean that they're stupid. In reality, most of the time it doesn't get done because they didn't understand what they needed to do. And that doesn't fall on them. When we hear, like, if we keep having the same progress or the same problem with the same person and we never try to change our communication style, is it their fault or our fault? They're giving their time. If our team doesn't understand it, whose fault is it? It's our fault. And when we can keep it simple, we can learn how to properly communicate with those people. We can equip them for what we want to see done instead of having to circle the wagons, redo all the work that they failed to do properly, waste more time, worry about it, and then we end up absolutely lost. But if we can keep it simple, we can keep it clear, we can keep good, easy communication, we can create a culture of things actually occurring. But first we have to create a culture of keeping it simple. I heard somebody say it like this, it's so corny, but I'm going to use it. It's just, In third grade, I was like brand new at Big Flats Elementary School, and they called. There's a guest. He came in and he said, "Cody, come up here." And then one of the girls came up and he's like, "I want you to kiss her." I was like, "I'm in third grade." Like, got all red in my cheeks. And he goes, "No, don't kiss her. I want you to keep it simple, stupid." It's like, "Oh, okay." But then I heard somebody like last year, they said, "Keep it simple, saints." So I was like, "Well, that's a little bit nicer and corny still." So just if we keep it simple, people can actually do what's been requested of them to accomplish. So I like that, and there's questions on that as well. The third thing, and I'm getting through these pretty quick because honestly, I have a lot of questions in here that I want you to be able to work through. I don't want to just give you information because information without an avenue to application, I've just talked at you. I want application of at least one of these things so we can see good success. The next one, and this is a hard one for a lot of people. We just sat with some of our interns the other day, and this was one of the biggest issues they highlighted was the ability to prioritize and execute in planning stages. And if you think about prioritizing and executing, that is honestly, as leadership, that is what it is. And Leif Babin gives this amazing example of a time where this was nuts. They were trapped in a building because someone had placed an IED right outside of the door. Okay, that's bad. So they decided they were going to run across a couple roofs, get down, detonate that, and then leave. Okay, that's pretty cool. As they're running across the roof, one guy made one misstep and fell through one of the houses and landed there. Now, they had the detonator on the thing. They got a guy down below, and the rest of the team is standing there like, now what? As the leader, he didn't have time to come up with 16 comprehensive steps to get out of this issue right now. It was, what is the most important thing? How do I prioritize, and how are we going to execute this right now so he lives, the rest of us remain safe, and we can get out of this situation as a whole? That's a big deal. You know what we see with many leaders? They end up with a situation like that, and it's like, well, it's his fault. He fell through. We're leaving. Got to go. Well, they made the problem. It's their fault. They screwed it up for everybody, and they throw in the towel and they quit. He didn't have that option. It's a human life. Their culture is to leave nobody behind. It's not to blame people. It's to make a plan to get it done. I've seen so many people, they're okay with just failing the mission because one person made a misstep. One person made a mistake. Well, forget it. We're done. That's never going to work if we're going to see good success, if we're going to have a culture that actually produces great vision. The crazy thing, too, is like Leif Babin never blamed that guy. Once. They just made a plan, they prioritized, and they executed. Now, it can be overwhelming to be surrounded by time-sensitive, high-stake problems, all of which could snowball into a bigger problem. Yes, that's true. It is very well high stress. But how do you deal with it? And if you can't deal with it, then you might not be cut out for a high level of leadership. And if you aren't willing to work on it, then you're going to never make it at a high level of leadership. There's a lot of people, they crumble with little or low pressure situations. Look, when you start running an organization that has $3, $4, $5 million on its shoulders at all times, one decision is very important. In such situations, good leaders stay calm, they identify top priorities, and they tackle them one at a time. You can't take care of everything at once. That's not how it works often. What we need to do is identify our single top priority. What is the most important thing for them? It was to get the guy out of the house because it's a human life. And then communicate it in a clear, simple, and concise terms to your team. One of the quotes from the book, it says, even the most competent of leaders can be overwhelmed if they try to tackle multiple problems or a number of tasks simultaneously. Instead, leaders must determine the highest priority task and execute it. Once we've defined that top priority, what is the most important, what is the most vital, then make a plan. So like one of the things we've been doing in our meetings for my team is we've been going through 3 things: what's hot, what's not, and what's next. Why do we do that? So we can actually prioritize things, so we can be on the same page. What is happening right now? Friday, we have a partners night. That's right now. That's the hottest thing we're dealing with for conference. What's not happening? What needs attention? And then I like the question for next, because now we can look ahead and make sure we're all on the same page for what's next, what should be on our radar, what should be blipping coming up, but not what we're focusing all of our attention on. It lets you prioritize. It lets you get a plan. It lets you get things in order, and it puts the whole team on pace for what we're doing. And then we define a solution with our team and focus all of the resources on solving the problem before moving on to the next highest priorities. And then as leaders, we get to stay 1 to 2 steps with a sound contingency plan. We need to be able to anticipate problems, take preventative measures, and equip our team with possible solutions to tackle issues that might creep up on us. Look, who knows? If all the batteries go dead at the same time during a worship set, that's really bad. What are we going to do? But I'm sure Pastor Kevin's seen it before, and he's a couple steps ahead. And being a couple of steps ahead, he knows that somebody needs to, every time before there's a service or every time there's a microphone turned on, somebody needs to go out in front and check all of the batteries so it doesn't die. 1 to 2 steps ahead in everything that we do. We need to think clearly and effectively on what could come up, like what financial problems could come up. What safety issues could come up? Like, I had a volunteer who loves violent games, like medicine ball, dodgeball. We're not playing that. That's a safety problem. We're going to be a step or 2 ahead if we're like, yeah, let's do it. No, that's a horrible life choice. Got to be ahead. But even in thinking, like, be 1 to 2 steps ahead in your safety. Be 1 to 2 steps ahead culturally. Be 1 to 2 steps ahead with your personnel. Like if like Pastor Aaron has how many head teachers? 12 head teachers. I would bet money that he's got 4 or 5 people that could take any one of those positions if something were to happen drastic in their life and they had to step down. We need to make sure we have solid personnel. What Pastor Andrea has taught here before is about having succession plans. When she worked for Corning Incorporated, they had 1 to 2 people that were being trained, that had hands-on, that could immediately step in and take any executive's position at any point in time if needed. We need to be 1 to 2 steps ahead in our personnel. And what we need to be able to do too is recognize that priorities can change quickly as things unfold. We can't be so rigid. Strong communication, both upward and downward, is vital to ensure the entire team can adapt rapidly to changes, and clear, simple communication. There's questions at the end of that one too, which I really like. Now this one is really good. The 4th one, it's a decentralized command. Now, Pastor has taught us what the commander's intent is, and that is the mission, the goal, the objective. But once we have the commander's intent, we have to pass it down through. If we're the only people that know what our leader wants, and we're the only people empowered to take care of it, we're the only people empowered to bring it to the next level, it won't go far. So what they did in decentralized command is Navy SEALs are actually divided into groups of 4 and 6. And during complex dynamic operations, what Jocko could do is he could lead a lot of units through his 2 platoon commanders, who in turn could closely watch their next in command and so on. So what Jocko Willenick would do is he would sit in a base command and he would oversee 2 commanders, and the 2 commanders would oversee X amount, probably 4 to 6 guys, and all 4 to 6 of those teams would have 4 to 6 guys coming from one room. If you try to oversee 75 different people, good luck. Good luck. I talked to a pastor who was running small groups, and she alone was overseeing 73 small groups. Every single one of them reported to her. Now, structurally, what we've done is we've set up hosts, which are where people meet in homes, and also coaches. And coaches report up to the one leader. Why? Because it would be impossible for one person to oversee that many groups effectively. Any person in any organization at any level can be a leader of somebody. And great leaders clearly communicate the vision, the mission, as well as members' roles and boundaries. Then they give people trust and freedom to execute the plan. Generally, human beings, oh wow, that's a run-on word. Human beings can only handle up to 6 to 10 people, and ideally 4 to 6 at one point. If we can break down teams into groups of 4 or 5 and clearly assign leaders for each group, ensure the leaders understand the overall mission, they understand immediate goals, they understand our culture, they understand what we're doing, including the why, we can actually see success. With senior leadership, they should be able to maintain situational awareness, strategic perspective, and this could be like a whole training itself. Facilitate real-time communication across teams, trust people to make the right decisions, and be ready to back them up if it's required. We should have people that are running teams for us. Junior leaders, man, they need boundaries of their responsibilities. They need to be empowered to make decisions inside of those boundaries. They need to be innovative and adapt as situations changes. And they should report regularly for plans and actions. And if we can set up layers of leadership, we can actually start to train, develop, and bring people to the next level. We can actually see silos break down. We can see them learn how to prioritize and execute. We can see them learn how to keep things simple. And we can actually see a cover and move kind of thing. And we can actually see success. We can see forward progress. The teams that they ran were free to adjust plans on an actual situation, but they filtered reports upwards so that Jocko could maintain the big picture and update all their teams. You don't just get to do whatever you want. You got to communicate it. But that's the goal, is to make sure that we have layers of these things set up so we can actually see real success. Once we start to take extreme ownership, not make excuses, not push things forward, and we start to create a culture of cover and move, not just silos, but we're in this together. What do we need to do? How does this benefit all of us? And how does this move the vision forward? When we can start to keep things simple and actually communicate on a real level, and we create a culture of making things easy, when we can prioritize and execute things in a right order based upon the commander's intent, what's the most important right now? Not being spread out in 1,000 different areas, but what's the most important right now, today? And we can actually start to empower other people to do the same kind of things. We can create a culture where the vision is actually sustained. And really, culture is going to be one of the most important things for any organization, any place you go, anything that you do. Again, the church could have a vision to reach all 83,000 people in Chemung County. But without the culture to do it, without a servanthood culture, without people who are on fire, without that culture to do it, who cares? It's just a good idea. Yeah. Your business could have a vision to double in the next year, but if you've never created the culture to do it, it doesn't matter. And these are really simple, easy culture pieces. Now, implementing them might not be easy and simple because it's people's hearts. It's teaching, it's training, it's hands-on. But when we can change a culture, it's worth all the work. It's so much easier to take a year, 6 months to focus on the culture of a department, the culture of a team, than to take 6 years trying to beat through to the next level where it's never going to work. So really my challenge to you today is to get off the dance floor and get on the balcony. Where are you not covering and moving? Where are you not keeping it simple? Where are you not prioritizing and executing according to the mission that our leader has set up? Where are we not having decentralized command where we can empower people to see a greater level of leadership and greater level of development? Where are we lacking in these things so that we can create a culture of actually moving forward and what we've been trusted to do? And I love these 4. I think they're absolutely powerful, basic things that we can take from the military, from business section, and we can utilize them in church. And honestly, they all have you can pull scripture on every single one of these things. Much of business we know has been robbed from the Bible. So I think we as Bible believers need to actually take back what the Lord has set up for us. We need to have each other's back. We need to keep things simple. We need to prioritize things like souls, loving God, making disciples, and we need to empower people like Jesus did. And he empowered more and more and more. First it was the 12, and then the next it was 70. It grew. So that's what I have. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Because at the end of each of these sections is a nice list of 2 to 4 questions that I would love for you to work through with your group. And honestly, again, I don't want to just give you information. I'd love for you to be able to apply one of these things and take it and really work on it, because that's where you'll see success from this meeting. If not, I just spoke for 36 minutes and did it to blow some air. But I didn't do that. I did it with an intent on you guys applying something out of this. So if no one has any questions, comments, we're going to break up into our groups. We are going to meet back in here at 55. And we want every single person to have the one thing that they're going to work on, and we'll shout it out. We'll go around. And I want you to also, maybe if you can, come up with an accountability plan with the people that you've met with this week so you can see it done. Sound good? Cool. 12:55, so 18 minutes.